It'll be 10 years this December since Sandy Hook. At the time, at least, when it happened, I was in third grade. No, fourth grade. I was in fourth grade. And I don't really remember how much of an impact it had on us, like our us as when we were kids and it happened. But I do remember the aftermath of the whole thing, with schools putting even more money into security, with schools putting even more time and effort into drills with a new kind of drill in the first place. And it was very weird just going through middle school and high school having lockdown drills for the potential eventuality of some guy with a gun coming in. And I live in like I would like to say at least that I live in a pretty decent area, and I do. Uh, but even our school district, which is in the state at least considered one of the best rated, has some of the, at least my school specifically as well, has some of the highest test scores in the country, so it gets the most money from the state's Department of Education. It has a lot of, it's in a very wealthy area. Um, Even like it's a problem that it doesn't matter class. It doesn't matter like if you're in a poor or wealthy community or area. You know, this issue has kind of been pervasive regardless of class. I was in freshman year when Parkland happened. And I remember thinking when Parkland happened that this seems to be at least the first time that I can remember that people have stood out and taken a stand against school shootings as an idea in America. And I also remember when nothing came of it, and when I remember there was this one specific, if I'm remembering right, Marco Rubio was up for re-election that year after it happened. And I remember he was asked by one of the kids that made it out. He was asked if he was going to take any donation money from the NRA for his campaign, and he did the usual political question dodging thing that all politicians do. It's 10 years after Columbine, or not Columbine, after Sandy Hook. I think that's honestly more telling in and of itself that I got them mixed up. The fact that we have so many that that's even a possibility. But anyway, it's been 10 years. It'll be 10 years since Sandy Hook this year. And you really got to ask yourself, what's changed? 10 years ago, when I was in fourth grade, I was kind of a nerd. I had just gotten glasses like 2 years prior. I was still very short. I had absolutely no idea what politics was as a concept. And most of the time, whenever I was in any situation with other people, like other kids, whenever I was hanging out with other kids, it was a very, uh, generally at least, it was a very positive interaction, right? We just kind of hung out, played some video games, played some games outside. We were just having a good time, and at the time, at least, I don't remember Sandy Hook having a big impact on our school and what we did like that year or maybe even the year after. Uh, but when we did start having lockdown drills, when we did start doing all of that, it does make you wonder really, um, what's changed since then. And when it comes to that specific issue, uh, it it's hard to say anything else but nothing, because honestly, one of the first things that I said after after I opened Twitter and I caught wind of the Texas story. I don't know how to pronounce the town. I think it's like Uvalde. After I caught wind of the story, my first thought was literally, "Oh, okay, so it's just Sandy Hook 2," and it basically is, because yet again, it's a guy who went to an elementary school and killed a bunch of people. Right now, at least, it's still somewhat of a developing story. It seems that at the time of recording this, the confirmed body count is 21, most of them being students. And it does beg the question, right? Even since Parkland. From Parkland, which was in, I think, 2018, which was 6 years after Sandy Hook. What happened? 6 years? That's a pretty long time. 2012 to 2018 was my fourth and fifth grade and all of middle school, and that was a very, very big developmental time where a lot of things happened on my personal front. And yet, when you look at the issue itself, it looks like really nothing changed. All of this is to say that there's a level of, at this point, honestly, for me personally, there's a level of detachment I have from the whole thing. And there's a level of almost, I'm kind of numb. And I know it sounds kind of horrifying, and yeah, it is. And you know, I'm not proud of it. I'm not happy about it. But that's just how the cookie is crumbled for me. Is I'm just so detached and I'm so numb to this kind of thing that when I yet again when I heard the news about it, I was just like, oh, so it's just Sandy Hook 2, and that was it. I'm aware, or at least I hope that is a. I hope that is a, like, considered an unhealthy mindset. I'd like to think, because if it isn't, and if that is considered the norm, then frankly, I get why nothing has happened in the past 10 years. I get it. If if a lot of America, like myself, was so numb to this, I can see why nothing has happened. And yet, time after time, shooting after shooting, event after event, we get the same people sending their thoughts and prayers, which at this point, like, might as well translate to fuck you. I don't. Thoughts and prayer, what does that even mean? Um, I still like to think, at least, and I still truly believe that despite all of its shortcomings, and there are a lot of them, that I'm still very patriotic, right? America is still, for me at least, America is still the greatest country in the world. Don't get me wrong. I'm aware we have a ton of problems. We have a ton of things that we need to fix. But because of my, I guess, blind uh, love of the country that I was born and raised in, I still like to think that we are the greatest country in the world. At the same time, I totally get all the disaffected people who are like, that is a fucking unbelievable mindset, right? America, there's no way America is the greatest country in the world. It's not even people that like, it's not even Europeans saying that. It's American people saying that. People who live here. And I get it. Because when you see just the past like couple weeks, uh it's hard to not think that way, honestly. First you got the 10 people who got shot in Buffalo, in just what was it's even been like written down in police report as a hate crime. It was specifically targeted towards a black community. There was a shooting of an Asian church, I think, is what it was. I didn't do my due diligence, honestly, in looking that up, in SoCal. And now this. With that in just the past 2 weeks, with police violence, police brutality last year, with uh, specifically with it coming to a head last year, it's been a problem for a while. Uh, with all of that, with all of the problems that have kind of come to the forefront of the collective American consciousness through a variety of reasons and a variety of ways, I totally understand those who think that America is not the best country in the world. And sometimes it does get pretty hard to not sympathize with them or not believe that yourself. One of those times, especially, is when the thoughts and prayers people come out of the woodworks. Because, yet again, like I said, thoughts and prayers might as well at this point translate to fuck you. I genuinely believe that, frankly, the same thoughts and prayers people who just offer their condolences and offer their thoughts and prayers are not. I genuinely believe that they don't want to do anything about it because they know they don't have to. And it's infinitely easier to not do things than to do things. But at the same time, when those same people are the ones that make six-figure salaries off of people like us, our tax money, that's how politicians get paid, uh, it gets harder and harder to. It's not just about harder and harder, it gets impossible, straight up, to think about how it's possible that 90% of America agrees on things like background checks, which, first of all, holy shit, 90% of America agrees on anything is crazy. But it gets even more confusing and damn near impossible to think that the people who are in Congress accurately represent the American people. And there's a lot of problems with the American populace, I'm well aware. There's a lot of problem with American politicians and how we do elections in this country and how we, there's problems in everything. I don't like America. I understand and agree that America is not perfect. We have a lot of things we can consistently work on, and we should work on them. When shit like this happens, fuck the last 10 years. It's happened like 3 times in the past 2 weeks. 2 weeks is 14 fucking days. That's half a month. Not even. Anyone, any politician, period. Just any of them. Specifically the American ones, at least. Any politician out there that has already said things about don't politicize this, or don't this isn't the time, or saying things like fucking what did Greg Abbott say, that dumb motherfucker? I forget what he said. He said something about my old high school English teacher tweeted about it. He said something about how this is like less harmful than critical race theory and gender identity. Whatever the fuck kind of. He's a fucking dumbass. I just don't care. Anybody spouting some bullshit, like it's what. First of all, just what the fuck, but even beyond what the fuck, it's also like anybody who says don't politicize it is kind of politicizing it themselves, first of all, and two, like respectfully, as respectfully as I possibly can, because for some reason, somehow, in some way, sort of, respect still matters in this country, which, like, no, it doesn't, but it does on paper. So, respectfully, I give every single one of you a hearty fuck you, and I hope that you have hot metal rods shoved up your ass, because it can join the stick up there. I genuinely, truly believe that nothing is going to get done in this country about this kind of problem, specifically because those kinds of people are incentivized not to. And as much as I love to point fingers at politicians, because at the end of the day, they're the ones getting paid off of our tax dollars, it's also important to mention the other factors that go into this. Wayne LaPierre, who is the head of the NRA, the National Rifle Association, who have consistently spent millions and millions of dollars in lobbying to keep gun regulations safe, and they've spent to keep gun regulations, I would say, safe from existing. Fuck all of you too. Every single one of you responsible for this shit, and I hope you all die. That's not a threat. That's not a promise. I just really wish it. I will be glad when it happens, because I mean, let's face it. Everyone's gonna die. I will be glad when it happens. Uh, because there is that age-old like question, right? The trolley problem. And one of the examples of the trolley problem is a bunch of old people on one side and a bunch of young people on one side. Which one do you save? And if I'm remembering right, because I did have to watch a video on this for my computer science class when we were talking about autonomous vehicles, and how they may have to tackle the trolley problem in the future. What I also said, like one of the things around the world, America did prioritize saving the kids. And if we're going to go with that, if we're going to go with that as a metric for what the American people believe, if we believe in the kids, their future, and what they could mean to the future of this country, I genuinely think that all of the old motherfuckers that don't do shit about this, like nothing's going to get done until all of them are either retired, resigned, or dead. Because they are the reason that shit doesn't happen. And it's not a party thing. It's not an ideology thing. And like I said, I'm not I'm not going to take sides on this. Except for the side primarily that I'm taking on this is the side of the kids that are fucking dead from Sandy Hook, from Parkland, from Uvalde, because it's not, the problem isn't that Ted Cruz is a Republican. The problem isn't that guns are bad. The problem is that Ted Cruz fucking sucks and that guns are not properly regulated. And I don't know what the solution is to either of them. And I'm not going to pretend like I know what the solution is to either of them. But what I can say is, until a solid solution is found, that's another 21 people, 21 kids. These guys were elementary schoolers, so the oldest they're going to be is 11. The average expected age of people in the United States is like in their 70s. They still had over 60 years worth of time left that was taken away. And that's 60 years roughly per kid who could go on to make the next big thing happen, who could go on to make the world a better place, who could go on to do whatever. That's 20 more 60 years that we're not going to get back. I really don't like moments of silence when it comes to like the concept of them, because I find them rather pointless. I was talking to my mom about this earlier, where I find moments of silence pointless because, from what I understand, the concept of a moment of silence is that you are trying to honor the person who has died. You are trying to, respect their life and what it meant. And to me, a moment of silence, at least, is the stupidest fucking thing you can do. Because if you really wanted to honor someone's death or respect their life, you would work to A, carry on their mission or see that their mission would be carried out, or B, you would actually do something about, how they died. Moments of silence don't solve shit. Hell, even fucking words don't necessarily solve shit. Action solves shit. We've had a lot of inaction for a long time. I'm getting pretty tired of it because the more inaction that we see, the less I care when the next one happens. And that's kind of sad. As is the fact that it keeps happening.